Greetings and welcome to Jefficho Films. Who doesn't like a game of chess? Who doesn't like a Christopher Lambert movie? So let's talk about the mystery thriller 1992, Night Moves. This movie starts out in 1972 Washington State chess tournament where two kids are playing chess in black and white, and one kid is about to be checkmated and he just gives up, and then he attacks the other with a pen. He's hospitalized, and later his daddy leaves for understandable reasons. The making of a killer. Later he finds mom's dead body and he does what he should do. Grab his chessboard, because practice makes perfect.
Hell no, you can't go to the bathroom. You know where you can go? The fuck to sleep.
Then we meet Peter Sanderson, played by legendary actor Christopher Lambert, and he just won the second round in an international chess tournament, and his daughter was watching with his teacher. His daughter's played by young Catherine Isabel, which is pretty interesting, and then he calls up Debbie, his friend. She's cute, and they make love, and she actually thinks that she's like buzzing him back in later that night because he forgot something, but she gets killed. Down at the crime scene, we meet Detective Andy Wagner, played by Daniel Baldwin, and Captain Frank Sedman, investigating the murder, played by Tom Skerritt.
Oh, I came out here from the city to get away from this.
The killer propped her up in bed with running mascara and lipstick, and remember, written in blood above the bed. Detective Steve Nolan fills them in. Her wrists were slashed, just like Mummy's was, but there's no blood. The killer wiped down everything, all prints, not even just his own, and the two detectives show up at Peter's place, and he's heard of her death, but he's taken it pretty well. They don't suspect him of anything, but he also didn't tell them that he was sleeping with her.
I've talked to a few people who say you and her were friendly.
Well, chess tournaments can be boring. You know, people have a lot of free time.
Bill and Peter almost won his last big tournament, but he left halfway through, and then he gets a phone call from the tiller saying that he wants to play a game. He also sends him a picture of Debbie, so Peter calls the police. He admits to the relationship, and we learn that Detective Andy's a bit of a hothead. It's gonna get him killed, I bet. And the detectives go and visit a psychologist. Kathy Sheppard, played by the lovely Diane Lane, walks into a unisex steam room. Yeah, I'm sure those exist. And she sees a relaxing Peter. But I'm not sure this is a good pickup line.
Chess is a reflection of life. Life is violent. The strong win, the weak perish.
You enjoy being the stronger one?
He's suspicious of her, and she's a psychologist who works for the other psychologist, and she unknowingly was sent in to ascertain whether Peter was crazy. Yeah, good job, Scott.
It worked out all right, didn't it?
Fuck you.
Then we see a lovely blonde woman going into a creepy basement to do her laundry, where the killer strikes. The next day, the detectives are at Peter's place because they know he's going to get a phone call, and Kathy shows up too, and he gets the call, and the killer knows he's being recorded and says he's only going to stay on for a minute, but he actually stays on for a minute and 44 seconds if you time it. He leaves a riddle and the cops get back to work. Apparently the lipstick he's using went out of business 16 years ago. Detective Andy's still suspicious of Peter, but Kathy wants to bring him in on it. They find a laundry girl in a similar state as the first victim, with eventually written above her, but it's also down at the docks. Kathy tells Peter about it, but he has to go off and play chess.
I've got a game.
There's a young woman who could be dead by the end of this game.
She could be dead now.
You have to think between a chess game and someone's life? The girl that was killed last night was 21 years old. He dumped her body behind a warehouse like a sack of garbage.
Then we meet another attractive woman who finds a man in her closet. This is becoming a common occurrence. Revenge is written above her body in blood. Man, it's gotta take time to drain this body of blood. Peter ends up breaking a promise to Erica, his daughter. He promised to take her to Seattle, and his teacher tells him not to push her away like he did his wife. The cops have clues this time, and then the mayor comes by Frank's office to put pressure on him. She doesn't care about evidence or any of that. She just wants an arrest because no action really affects the tourists, but Frank stands up to her.
I'm the chief of police here, and as long as I am, I'll arrest people on the basis of evidence and not the political ramifications.
I could have your badge for that, Sedman.
And I could run over to the press and tell them how you're willing to do away with due process so you can sell a few more goddamn shrimp cocktails on your wharf.
Peter finds an envelope in his room, and then he opens up the door to Kathy, who tells him all about the third victim, and she's really upset, so he holds her hand before the other cops show up. They go down to the basement so they can track the call faster with the machine. It's flooded down there. They say because it's the rain, but I'm guessing the cracks in the walls are something to do with it too. Lambert hangs up on the guy because he knows how to play these games, and the killer does call back. Kathy and Peter go for a walk, and we learn that his wife died in a car accident, and she says that he is playing his life like a chess game. After some strategic banter, they kiss and make love.
I just don't want to fight with you.
Then show me who you are, Peter.
Then they agree to order a pizza, my kind of girl. He goes to take a shower and she goes through the mini hotel phone book and she sees all the girls' names who had died. Their names are circled in red pen. Alright movie, quit trying to make me suspect Christopher Lambert is the killer. He is too cool for that. Though it did kind of sound like Lambert's voice when he was asking to get buzzed up for that first girl. Who could copy such a unique voice? Nah, couldn't be him.
Yes.
It's me. I forgot something.
She gets dressed and he gets out of the shower and starts wondering why she's so freaked out. He explains he was looking for connections between the women, and he's offended by this. So am I.
Peter.
How could you think that, Kathy? How could you even consider it?
Then he has a big chess game at the tournament with his main rival, and he didn't see any mistakes, but he loses the first game of 3. His teacher asks whether it's a distraction with this new Kathy girl. Then we get another girl killed, and Kathy discovers a footprint, and then she gets scared by her partner psychologist, Alan, who has the same shoe print. Frank has a lead. All the victims rented their apartments from the Rockbridge Rentals, and if the killer works there, he'd have a key to each one of those places. Sadly, the detective's leads don't really pan out yet, and Kathy meets Erica, and Erica grills her on her intentions with her dad. Nothing a child would actually say.
I know he really likes you.
Really? How do you know? Did he say something?
No, but I could tell. A woman knows these things.
They get another call, and the voice seems younger to me. They get a new message that they had to decode. And how did Andy make detective? I mean, was it out of loyalty? Because he seems dumb. Peter's figured it out. The killer is using the map of the island to play chess with him, and 3 of the moves that's already been done was used before, in 1986, by Peter Rulovich. He thinks he has the location, but it's not a small area, so back to trying to figure out the riddle, and Peter does. Officer Gordon is going to take the girl's place, and Peter goes to play chess, but the projector goes down, so they're going to have to adjourn till tomorrow, and apparently there's another location that it could have been for the killer. Frank figures it out and gets there just in time as he's seeing Polaroid pictures being taken, and he busts in. The killer escapes. The girl's still tied up in bed, but she's alive with Dexter sheets all around her. Peter apologizes to Kathy, and then he opens up to her. He says he's always suspected that his wife drove off a cliff intentionally, and that he's had a letter from her, but he's never opened it. So he decides to open it in front of her, and it's a suicide note, and he cries. Well, now I'm starting to suspect you, Peter, because this is just blatant sympathy you're asking for. Kathy does a news interview calling out the killer's state of mind, being impotent or latent homosexual. Just paint a target on your back, why don't you?
That, coupled with the fact that none of these girls were actually raped, leads us to believe that he may be impotent or a latent homosexual. Regardless, he's acting out some kind of revenge fantasy that probably fulfills some sick sexual need.
His teacher, Jeremy, wants him to win the tournament, but let's look at him. Old? Blind? Yeah. I mean, he could turn out not to be blind. He could be the killer. Frank gets a little pissed that he was sent to the wrong location, and he throws Peter through some glass, and he puts a gun to his head. And then the phone rings, so it's obviously not him.
Fuck you! I'm tired of your goddamn accusations! You want to arrest me? Do it!
Again, though, the voice sounds very young. Is it the computer guy? Because we did get that computer glitch. Frank and Andy tell Kathy that she's been compromised. What, because she had sex with them? Jeez, I think that just gives her more insight into his character. But they take her off the case, and she tells them what a shitty detective Andy is. I agree.
I think there have been 5 murders, and you've got shit to go on. You need to blame someone, and Peter is the easiest choice.
The logical choice.
You don't have a shred of evidence.
We'll find the evidence.
You couldn't find your dick in a windstorm.
Kathy talks to Peter, but he's slipping up. He knew the word above the last victim, and nobody told him, but he covers it up rather intelligently, though still very suspicious. She cleverly waits for him to leave, and then she calls about the book that he referenced to see whether he made this up or not, and then the power goes out, and we see his cell phone taking photos, and the man with a knife has his hand bandaged just like Peter's. She calls him Peter, because of the bandage, and he says Peter isn't here anymore. Multiple personality? Well, she escapes, but the chase is on. Peter shows up at the tournament with his hand still wrapped, but slightly different. Andy and Frank talk to Kathy and she tells him everything, and then they get a call down to the docks. Apparently a cop found a note and his teacher Jeremy's cane and glasses, and it says, "Peter, I just can't do it anymore. The teacher's dead," with a voice modulator. Kathy goes to her psychological partner, but I'm suspecting it's him.
I've just been such an idiot.
The cops go to Peter's place and they find Polaroids of all the girls, and then they go arrest him during the tournament and tell him he would have got away with it too if he didn't attack Kathy. But Peter was acting surprised. Kathy calls about the book and gets the first chapter in the first lesson, and Peter was telling the truth. And then the cops give Peter a lawyer's number and he calls it, but it's the killer's number. But Peter says he's figured it out.
You're a sore loser, Peter. Cutting my hand like yours was a brilliant move, don't you think?
Listen, if you kill tonight, I'm in jail. They're gonna know it's not me.
Kathy thinks the killer was a patient of one of the psychologists, and Peter writes out all the clues, and it spells Erica. She's the killer, or next victim. That makes more sense. And the cops still think it's him because, they're ignorant. I guess they don't have any other evidence pointing anywhere else, though. Erica gets home by herself, and she's playing the game on a computer. The computer guy installed games on that computer.
No, it's all fixed. I also put a few games on for your daughter. I hope you don't mind. Of course not. I'm gonna play with them.
The assholes forced Peter into confessing because he said he'd do anything if they would get a cop car over to pick up his daughter. And then Frank goes back on his word. What a dick. So Peter manages to get a gun and escapes, even steals a cop car. Kathy calls the police station, but no one picks up. She thinks she knows who it is. And then Andy leaves, and he shows up at Erica's home.
Boy, you scared me.
Who else is here with you?
No one.
Come with me.
I can't. I have to wait for my dad.
I don't have time to argue with you, Erica.
He grabs Erica, making it look like he's the killer, and then he heads out the room, and we hear her scream. But maybe Andy was just killed. Peter gets there, and nobody's there, except there's a blood trail leading to the closet, and a note that says check. And it's Andy. He's dead. So Andy's not the killer.
God! Oh, God!
Kathy shows up and lets the cops out of the cell, and then Peter gets a phone call from the killer, and it's coming from a noisy location, like the basement. And then we see, yep, it's a computer programmer, and he was the kid that stabbed Peter at a young age too. Just went crazy. I knew it was him.
You still lose? She'll still be dead before you can get down here.
Checkmate.
David explains his motivation, and then Kathy and Frank show up and find Andy dead and turn on the speakerphone so they can hear everything. And then they fight. They fight down there, and he actually hits Peter over the head with a pipe. This fight should be over. With the amount of force and the solidarity of that pipe, realistically, no man could take that and keep going. No normal man.
I don't think so.
Why is Erica telling her dad not to kill David? He literally just tried to kill your dad, and he killed Andy right in front of you. Come on. And then he gets up and he knocks out Peter. And Frank comes down the stairs and gets tripped up, and then his throat is sliced. And then he goes after Kathy. Kathy psychoanalyzes him. In some ways, he's kind of still a child, but then Peter gets a gun and he shoots him. But they do tease, what if the killer won? But he didn't. The end.
There can be only one.
Is Kathy enough of a witness to clear Peter? What about his confession? We'll never know. The script clears it up though, where Frank lives because his throat wasn't cut deep enough, and then Peter wins the chess tournament with Kathy and Erica watching, implying that they'll become a family later. That's a much better ending.
Play for the world title next year. But the big story is the amazing comeback of Peter Sanderson, who is currently leading the tournament.
With a $9 million budget, it made $31.5 million, and I'm pretty sure it was shot in Victoria. I can't confirm it because there's not enough information about some of these movies.
Where is she?
You'll find her.
If you want to tell me something, just come out and say it! Where is she, you son of a bitch?
And I really enjoyed finally watching this movie. It satisfied my Christopher Lambert cravings, even though he wasn't using a sword. We'll have to try harder next time. We got a young Diane Lane and some other recognizable actors, and I was constantly wondering, like, oh, is it this person? Is it this person? Just waiting for the twist to happen.
Computers.
You can get into anything.
Yes, I can. Including your mind. I'm in there right now, aren't I, Peter? I'll always be with you.
It's actually a good whodunit, and it will leave you guessing the whole time, unless some asshole told you in his review. Well, as always, thanks for watching.